You know, in this day and age, I think people are used to seeing a smaller number of captains, and some of yours have been larger. What's the advantage of having a 7-man captain class?
Consensus. I think, you know, when it comes to selecting captains, I've gone through the gamut over 30 years of having 2 captains. But I think today, consensus, the ability to get together, guys really like to, as a leadership group, have the ability to work together as a group. And so I think it has much more to do with their ability to act as a unified group more than it does anything else. And they operate so much easier together as that group. We have kind of laid the groundwork for that with our SWAT team groups, and so it's kind of set into motion this kind of extended leadership within the organization, if you will. So I think I've kind of set that model up in a way where they operate a lot better when there's much more of a consensus. So a lot of the meetings that I've been having over the past years, the last couple years since we set up these SWAT teams, has been with 8, 9, 10 individuals. And they just feel much more comfortable and have led in that fashion. So that's why you're seeing a little bit more in terms of captains.
I know we in the media like to talk about leadership. We're not always great about illustrating it. Maybe with Khalid Kareem, what does that look like? What's your best Khalid Kareem leadership story?
He recognizes how important it is to hold his peers accountable. I'll give you an example. We were in our last summer workout, and Matt was, you know, doing a million things because we had a run on the other side of campus, and you know, he was giving out. He was also going to give out awards. So you know, his mind was on a lot of different things. Well, that week, Khalid's team had fallen below the threshold in terms of points. And if you fall below a particular threshold in terms of accountability points, classroom, other things, then you have to run. Well, it had slipped it slipped his mind that he had to hold them accountable for that and run them. And Khalid came up to him and said, "Hey, listen, our team's got to run today. Don't forget." And just those little things, you know, about we're going to be held accountable all the time. So he really shows that accountability amongst the peers about doing it the right way all the time.
One more for me with Cole Kmet. Did he have to have surgery with the broken
Yeah, he had surgery the other day. We put a plate in there, 6 screws. You know, timeline, anywhere from 4 weeks to, you know, 8 to 10 weeks, depending, you know, on, you know, how you heal. Typically, we've had him back in 6. He has shown to be a really good healer. Came back from a high ankle sprain in a week. So we're going to take the you know, the positive end of this and think that we can get him back in 4 or 5 weeks. So, you know, we're hoping New Mexico, but we'll see how it goes. Mother Nature will have a lot to do with that, but got a great team, and he's already up and moving around.
Is there a need to add from somewhere else on your team to the tight end core?
No, Tommy Trumbull will step in there. We really like Tommy. His athleticism fits in well at that position. No, so we feel comfortable where we are. Don't be afraid to chime in. We haven't seen you in so long. We miss you.
Ken, go ahead.
Brian, would it be fair, I know it's early and probably assuming too much here, but with Asmar Bilal bouncing between the 2 linebacker positions, do you kind of consider him a starter at both spots?
No, I don't think I'm ready to say that. I would say that we're trying to find the guys that fit with their skill set. You know, Asmar, I don't think there's any question that we feel like he's got a unique skill set at that position, extremely athletic. So we're really trying to find the strengths of each one of those linebackers and how they fit into the overall scheme of things on first, second, and third down. So this is really about, I think we got a pretty good idea of, who those guys are. Now it's about finding what the best combinations are right now. So we're starting to see some combinations, who's the shortstop and second baseman, who turns it best together. I know that's maybe a poor analogy, but it's really about trying to find those combinations and, matching those skill sets.
Sunday when we talked to you, you didn't seem to be aware that Kyle Hamilton made 3 interceptions on that day. Did you know he had an interception today?
I did see that because it was close coverage. Does that mean he has 4?
Well, 5.
Oh, he's got 5. It's amazing that you guys keep stats. Is there a big board that you guys keep, too? How many times have I screwed up somebody's name?
Just the one so far.
Just the one time? That's good, because he's reminded me, Shannon, like 17 times about it. He's a good player. I mean, he's young. He's still growing. He's still learning. He's going to be a good player. There's no doubt.
Are you just trying to downplay him a little bit because
I really didn't know he had 3 interceptions.
Okay.
I honestly did not. I know he shows up more. I was looking at other things. He's now got my attention a little bit more, so I see him more in terms of what he's doing. There's no doubt.
What does it looks like Drew Wright is a bigger version of himself from last year. What has he brought to the equation that's put him in the running?
Well, he's a downhill player, right? I mean, he's, if you look up the Mike linebacker in a dictionary, you probably find his body type and picture. He's a downhill player. One of the things that we were really looking for is the Mike linebacker to pull those double teams off of the 2 down linemen. And he's been really consistent at doing that and playing downhill, pulling those double teams off, and allowing Myron and Heinisch to make some plays at the line of scrimmage. And so that's really been his consistent forte, and that's what we need from that position. So that's why you've seen him in there more and more.
And Derek Allen's decision to leave the program, how
Yeah.
did you find out about that?
Well, we FaceTimed with his dad, and that's a individual decision that they made as a family. We wish him the best. He's going to find a place that obviously suits him, and we wish him the best.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian. You have more open practices this fall camp. Does that reflect just how much you like all of us, or something else at work there?
It's definitely my closeness that I've gotten to the media this year after winning. Next year, if we don't win as much, you guys will never see another practice again.
What are some of the things you loved about Ian Book's performance last season, and where are you looking for growth?
Well, I think just anytime you step in to be the quarterback at Notre Dame comes with it high expectations. So his ability, obviously, to fulfill those expectations week in and week out, you start there. And then you look for growth within the season. We saw growth within the season. And then we saw where he needs to continue to take his game. And he did that in the offseason in the spring, physically, mentally. And now we're at the point where now he's shown it as a leader as well as his peers elected him as a captain. So anytime you have a quarterback that's immersed into the starting position, taking over for a guy that's won a number of games, handling the week-to-week scrutiny of the position, winning week to week, and then being asked to elevate his game, which he did in the spring, and then his leadership. There's a lot to like about that. And then confidence starts to breed confidence throughout the entire unit. So we're seeing that throughout the entire unit when you have an incumbent quarterback, which I haven't had a lot of familiarity with that here at Notre Dame. So it's kind of a nice feeling.
Coach, back on signing day, we talked about Jay Bromlett and what he had to offer, taking him out of Tuscaloosa. He seems to be coming along pretty well. He had some pretty good hang times today. How do you feel about his progress?
I think he's made really good progress. There's you saw that his ability is real. I'm sure you were watching his ability to hang the football. We liked his hang time. Obviously, he's not going to, he's not a guy that's turning it over at 55, 60, but he's a 4.5 to 4.6 hang time guy, which is what we're looking for. This is still about consistency, and we just think he's very coachable, is wanting to learn every single day, and we just like his makeup. We think that the moment is not going to be too big for him. We think he'll be able to bounce back from a bad kick, that he's got a short memory, comes from a coaching family. His dad's a high school head coach, just been around the game a lot, and he's got a terrific arm. Just throwing that out there. High school quarterback, you can do a lot. Can rugby punt. It's got a lot of things that definitely pluses in his category.
Brian, backing up to Ian Book a little bit, one of the challenges.
I'm sorry.
One of the challenges Coach Long put towards him was take more chances, be more aggressive downfield, thread the needle a little bit more, don't so much worry about mistakes. Have you seen that progress from him through spring, summer, and so far through fall camp?
Yeah, I mean, Ian's personality is not one where, I don't know he's going to get many speeding tickets. I mean, he doesn't live on the edge. But I think, he certainly is a lot more confident in pushing the ball down the field. And we knew that that's something that we had to be better at. So he worked hard on that in the spring. We continue to have that as part of our offense. So I think it's twofold. It's one, having players that can aggressively push the ball down the field on the perimeter, and I think we have those guys this year. And secondly, him actually feeling comfortable doing it. So I think we're better there in both realms. But, he's not a guy that's just going to be feeding it in through traffic. It's just not his. He's going to check it down. He's a smart kid. He's going to make the right plays and make choices. But so I'd say yes, in a sense, that you're going to see the ball pushed down the field because I think our skill set's there, and I think he's a year further developed because of it.
And Chris Finke, from walk-on to starter to now team captain, could you talk about that story and the evolution?
Pretty good story. We showed a video this morning when I announced the captains, and before I announced them, I showed them the video, which was former captains announcing their captainship. And Webby was the one that announced Chris Finke, and certainly a walk-on to scholarship to captain, and it was a pretty good moment. And so that doesn't happen very often, and Chris has done it even at a higher level than Webby did in terms of, he's a guy that had done it for 2 years and is an extremely productive player for us. So, Chris had, close to 70% of the votes. I think in any election, that's a landslide. So that tells you a lot about what his teammates thought of him.
Brian, up here. You have an abundance of defensive ends in a way that you haven't before. Are there ways you can get creative with that to employ them maybe differently than you have in the past?
Yeah, well, the 4-game buffer helps us in maybe some situations where we can play some guys, get those 4 games out of them, and maybe redshirt them. So there's one. The second one is, can we play them in another position? Maybe that's a thought, with some of the guys. We're starting to kind of enter into that category of evaluation. Quite frankly, we weren't up until the last day or so. We were still kind of sorting out, what's our 2 deep look like. But we're getting into that next category of, we'll use Isaiah Folsky, for example. Is he a guy that you want to redshirt? Is he going to be here for 5 years? Can he play tight end? I mean, so all of those, can he do a lot of different jobs? Those are the things that you start to get into in week 2 and week 3. So your question is valid. It makes sense. We're probably a week away from maybe tackling some of those questions.
Brock Wright specifically, his last year, how have you seen him improve, sort of, rework his body a little bit, and then sort of your confidence level in him being a guy for the first month of the season that you are probably going to be on the field 90% of the time?
Yeah, I think movement skills. I think we felt like he was maybe not as nimble, maybe not as clean in and out of breaks. We've seen now that he's much sharper in and out. He can get separation. He moves so much better. So I think that reworking, if you will, has been much more about change of direction, explosiveness, cutting, getting in and out of the breaks. He's always had good hands. So that's never been a concern for us. But I think that reworking, if you will, has been that ability to change direction and get some separation. That's really where we've seen, his needle go up.